Hi there, and welcome to my YouTube channel. It's called Art for Life 70. My name's Richard. And what you're looking at here is the my practice pad of paper that I use to practice many of Shada Campbell's flowers. And what this is from a YouTube video that she did on February 7th, 2020. And this is my rendition of that rose flower that I did on February 19th. And because I subscribed to Shada on Patreon, I also had access to the worksheet that gives you a very detailed step-by-step of how to do this drawing with pencil and then ink. You see in the upper left my pencil, which I erased, and then ink over that. And then on the bottom, you see that I did the another version, which I painted. So since this video is about leaves and stems, I want you to look very closely at my original leaves and stems in this first drawing. And note how I did all of the ink work first and then the painting later. And although it looks okay, I think I can do better. So after some practice and review of flowers online and in the book I cited in part 1 of this Flowers in the Can, I came up with this drawing to represent two different views of rose leaves. And so I'm going to attempt in this painting to use one or both of these in the painting. So here I have a post-it note to keep track of where all my colors are going to be in my palette. So I'm going to be using Viridian, the sap green, the deep phthalo green, the yellow green, and a new color, the Van Dyke brown. So instead of using the number 2 brush, I changed my mind and started with the number 4 brush just for mixing and getting the colors I want in the palette. I'm also going to mix just the darkest color possible of each of the colors, because if I need a little lighter color, I can always drop some water into the palette and lighten it up. So this is a Viridian I'm mixing, and I won't need much of any of these paints actually. So this is the sap green I'm now mixing. And this is the deep phthalo green. And now the yellow green will be going into the center part of the palette. And the Van Dyke brown will be the last color, and it'll go at the bottom of the palette. So this is the 3/0 snap brush, and it'll probably be the only brush that I use for the rest of this painting. An artist always has a prerogative of changing his mind, so in this case I changed my mind and decided not to use any of the micron pens to outline the leaves. I've decided to paint them, and the outline of the leaves will be done with the Viridian. And I want you to notice the brush strokes that I'm using. They're tiny little lines, very tiny little lines. And this is to give the leaf the sharp points that it has. You'll notice that I'm ignoring the leaf, the shape of the leaf underneath the watercolor, and I'm making this leaf fatter because that's what it should look like. So you may have asked yourself, why am I cleaning the brush when I still have one more leaf to paint? That's because I missed it, and I'll come back and get it later. So you can see here that I'm using the sap green as the first layer of paint for the stems. There'll be additional layers later. So here's where I start outlining the fifth leaf. So it'll be like the others before I start filling them all in. So now I'm using the yellow green to fill in the each of the leaves, and I'll come back later with a darker color to put some more highlights inside the leaves as well. Remember, the golden rule of watercolor is dark colors go over lighter colors. So now I'm using the deep phthalo green to make sure the bottom of the stem is as dark as it can be, because that's what stems usually look like. So now that the painting's dry, I'm going to refresh the palette with a few drops of water. So you can see the beginner mistake I just made here by not checking to see if I had too much paint and water on the brush. I'll come back in a little bit and fix that mistake. So this is where I fix my mistake by grabbing some sap green and going over the darker paint with the sap green and then lifting the darker paint out, leaving the entire leaf a little bit darker overall, but which is okay, and then having the darker paint put back in to create the lines within the leaf. So now I have the deep phthalo green on my brush, and I'll paint the center part of the leaf, not quite as heavy as the first time I did it. This concludes part 3 of this video series, and stay tuned for the next part.